Hi, hello, welcome to my channel. I feel that I owe you an explanation on why I've been not uploading correctly my videos. I actually had a fight with iMovie, editing it, but it did not feel right. So I'm trying to go back in the saddle, and this will be my very first video. Uh, Fun fact, the Jericho celebration of his 30 years wrestling happened on my birthday, so that's probably why I'm doing this out of the actual time or current time. But nevertheless, I have my opinions regarding AEW, the celebration of the 30th anniversary of Jericho. So with that being said, we can go and jump right into it. So the first match of AEW Dynamite was Brian Cage against Will Hobbs in two horses fighting it out. So that was fantastic. I find it good. They are using correctly Brian Cage and also Will Hobbs. I wasn't aware of him, but he's a great wrestler and a good match to fight Brian Cage. The match was great, and eventually, I think my high point is that Brian Cage, his high risk, high reward moves, and Will Hobbs did not disappoint and was pretty credible as a threat. So that's nice. At the end of the day, Taz tried to recruit him, but eventually came out Darby Allin to his aid. So I feel like probably it's going to be a good idea to probably align Will Hobbs with Taz, but that would be turning him heel, and it's probably not going to happen. But I guess that, in my estimation, well, it was a great segment, a great match, and other than that, I'd give it a thumbs up. The next match was FTR against the Hybrid 2. That would be Angelico and Jack Evans. I am familiar with them. They wrestle for AAA. I don't have really attachment to Mexican wrestling because I feel that they are not correctly using the wrestlers. And they eventually go to the US and adapt to the style. They adapt their style, and eventually they found success in the US. So that's my reading of the situation. But the match was great. FTR is having a great run as tag team champions. The Hybrid 2, they are great wrestlers. Were a challenge, a credible challenge to the champions. So the match, in theory, was great. There were a couple of botches, but pretty minor, really. So the match was great. What I enjoy about this is that there were some points where the Young Bucks were looking at the camera and they were looking at the TV, just trying to give their opinion and stuff. So that's good. I feel that the correct opinion of turning them heel, that would be great. Then again, the tag team division, it's going great in AEW. It's probably the crown jewel of AEW, so I am not worried regarding the tag team division. But the match was great. Eventually, the FTR won using heel tactics, and well, that's good. I don't see a credible threat for FTR, and honestly, I don't know how. And honestly, I don't know if that is going to change in the future. But for the time being, it gets a thumbs up from me, and I will be looking into FTR run as champions. Next up, we got Cody Rhodes against Brody Lee for the TNT Championship. This match had a bit of controversy on the Twitter and internet. I unfortunately I don't think it's warranted because Cody wanted to take a look outside of the AEW for this time being. He used his power on AEW to push Brody Lee, which at the end of the day, I think that it's a correct choice because he's a great wrestler. It feels that WWE never gave him a fair shake, and he came out swinging for the fences, and that's great, in my estimation. Dog collar match, and it was great. But I feel that the internet is going probably saying that I've seen some of these comments regarding Brody Lee and also Cody Rhodes that he's being buried. I feel that the devil is in the detail. So of course he lost the TNT Championship to Brody Lee in a squash match, and at the time there was no controversy. And now it's suddenly a controversy, but it's not a squash match. I mean, it was a 20 minutes, 25 minutes match. And yes, Cody Rhodes won, but that was, expected. So I don't really see why people are complaining about. For the next Dynamite, he's going to be challenging Orange Cassidy. So in my estimation, that's next opponent. The match was great. It was pretty brutal. They both got their crimson mask. I mean, I know that I am a bad person, but I do enjoy when they bleed during the match because I feel that it's giving the match a bit more flavor and texture. I mean, in my mind, there was no chance of Brody Lee retaining the championship, but it's not a squash match. So I'm going to reserve my judgment for the next time that we see Brody Lee and see how they handle this defeat. But for the time being, it's getting from my side a thumbs up. Next up, we got Big Swole against Serena Deeb. And obviously, I feel that it's getting together the women's division on AEW. But for some weird reason, the crowd was practically dead. They weren't responding correctly to the big moves, and the match in general. I mean, it was fine, but without the reaction of the crowd, I don't know. It feels that it's not currently working. But I feel and I believe that they have all of the cards on their hand to change this situation. Eventually, Big Swole won. So she now is the number one contender to Hikaru Shida's championship. They'll be having a match for the championship next Wednesday on the anniversary of AEW Dynamite. So that's fine. That's great. I'm not a big fan of Big Swole, but Serena and Big Swole gave a great match. So I cannot complain or anything. So I give it a thumbs up. The main event of the night was Chris Jericho and Jake Hager against Chaos Theory. That would be Luther and Serpentiko. And the match had a lot of botches, but I don't feel that it's that important because since it's the celebration of Jericho's career, it makes sense in a weird way. So in theory, the match was not good. There were a couple of botches, but I don't find it that difficult to believe that this is, of course, trying to push Luther by Jericho's own hand. So there's not much I can say regarding that. The match ended with the Judas effect, which continues to be probably the greatest finisher in wrestling. So there's that. Eventually, after the match was done, MJF came to the ring, and he came to the ring and probably teased Chris Jericho. He came out with a WWE version of Chris Jericho dressed as a clown, which I found funny, but he wasn't too keen on that. Of course, it's not everyone's cup of tea, but for my situation, my reading is that he went probably on a too many cooks approach, which I mean I'm a fan of too many cooks, so I don't have any problem with that. So that's nice. But other than that, the match was just to serve Chris Jericho, and eventually the MJF segment also made sense because they came close to go to blows, but they both went. Oh, kidding. Probably that's going to happen eventually. That's good not to shoot your load on a mundane AEW Dynamite. But the slow cooking, the slow burn, I am a bit, I am more a fan of that approach. So I'll be reserving judgment for that particular storyline, but I find it relatively positive. So other than that, I give it a tentative thumbs up. And probably my favorite segment with wrestlers is when they announce the 3 new combatants for the tournament for the AEW title on November on Full Gear. They announced Hangman Adam Page is going to be there. They announced that Wardlow is going to be there. And they also announced that Colt Cabana is going to be there. So this is, of course, continuing the feud between Hangman Adam Page and Kenny Omega. And I can't be more thrilled than I am currently. So that's nice. That's good to know. It feels to me that Hangman Adam Page is getting a better luck in AEW, and he's probably going to be the anxious millennial cowboy for a while, but he is going to be climbing the ranks of AEW individual wrestler. So that seems good to me. And I just keep with my 2 thumbs up. Every time he's in the cameras, Hangman Page is by far my favorite wrestler currently, because he's a great wrestler, and he is, of course, being portrayed correctly on AEW Dynamite. So, I mean, Eagle Eye viewers mentioned to me that I currently have a lot of wrestling t-shirts. That's a correct reading of the situation. But I also bought a lot more of AEW t-shirts. So, I mean, for example, this one is for Undisputed Era. But now I am not having a look on NXT, but I still have my t-shirts, so I'll continue to do that. And I also bought a lot of AEW wrestler t-shirts, so they'll be popping out as soon as they come, according to the shipping tracking. It's currently halfway here. So I'll be waiting, and probably will be changing my t-shirts with much more wrestling related t-shirts. But other than that, I found this particular AEW Dynamite pretty cool. It was a celebration, but a couple of twists and turns not at all expected. So I find it, of course, positive regarding this. Even I am not a big fan of Cody Rhodes. I am not a big fan of Cody Rhodes having the TNT Championship again. I don't see it as a burial. For some reason, the internet does, but I don't see it. And he's going to be resuming the match of the week with a brand new wrestler. This time it's Orange Cassidy. So I feel that it's probably a positive thing for AEW. But other than that, I feel that this is slow cooking, but there are some dishes that require that procedure, so I am not necessarily complaining for the time being. Probably give it a week or two for me to have a bit more of an opinion either way. But with all of this being said, these are all of my thoughts regarding AEW Dynamite for October 7th. And of course, I need to finally pull the trigger regarding my catchphrase, because in theory, since this is the final part of the video, it's probably popping here and here the links of where you can find me. I of course have Twitter, Instagram. I'll have all of those here. My editing skills are not there yet, but you'll find on the description all of my social media accounts if you just want to get in touch with me or something like that. But This is all of my time. I hope you have a fantastic day and continue to have a great day. And also, and also, part of the reason I am having my channel currently is because, I mean, work is not going that great, but I'm still not. It does not matter how I feel. Every Wednesday, I can tune in for 2 hours of wrestling and have all of my issues put on ice. So that's why I'm trying to return, to be back in the saddle. And other than that, thanks for watching and subscribing.